Welcome to Business Psychology Podcast.
All right, so you know how everybody's talking about AI now,
Right.
like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I'm sure like everyone listening has at least played around with it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe even used it for work or research or something.
Definitely.
But how many times have you gotten an answer from it that seemed, I don't know, a little too creative, let's say?
Yeah, or like made up.
Yeah,
Like it's easy to laugh off when it's like suggesting a recipe with like a made up spice.
right.
But it really makes you wonder, like, how does something that seems so smart get things so wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we're diving in today. We've got this paper, and the argument is basically that calling these AI flubs hallucinations is kind of misleading.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
The paper actually suggests a different term.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Okay.
And stick with me here, because it is what it sounds like, but it's a whole philosophical concept.
Yep.
So it's not about ChatGPT just like getting things wrong. It's about how these inaccuracies actually reveal something fundamental about how it works.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break this down for me.
Okay, so most of us, when we think of ChatGPT, we think of it like this massive brain.
Right, yeah.
Like it's taking in all this information,
Processing, yeah.
processing it, and then spitting out like intelligent responses.
Yeah.
But the reality is actually much closer to like a supercharged version of your phone's predictive text.
Really?
Yes,
Like it doesn't actually understand the information. It's just really good at guessing the next word.
exactly. So imagine you're writing an email and you type, "Hope this email finds you." ChatGPT is basically trained on like a mountain of text, right? And it's amazingly good at predicting what comes next.
So it's going to say, well.
Exactly.
Right.
It's all about patterns, not comprehension.
Wow. Okay. So how does this tie back to the whole bullshit idea?
So the paper argues that because ChatGPT works this way, it's not actually lying to us, because lying implies an intent to deceive. It's just indifferent to the truth. Remember, it's all about creating the most statistically probable response, not necessarily the accurate one.
So it's like that friend, that can talk about anything,
Yeah.
but when you actually stop and listen closely to what they're saying,
Right.
they haven't actually said anything real.
Exactly.
It's just a bunch of impressive sounding words strummed together.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really interesting, because this bullshit tendency has some serious implications for how we use and trust AI.
So if it's just churning out these statistically likely phrases, even if they're completely made up, how do we know when it's actually useful?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it gets even trickier,
Okay.
because this paper digs into two different types of bullshit,
Okay.
hard and soft,
Okay.
which really comes down to intentionality.
So it's not just about if the information is accurate, but if there's an intent to mislead.
Exactly. Think about it like this. Have you ever read an article online and it seems really convincing? It's using all the right buzzwords,
Oh, yeah.
but then you realize it never actually cites any real sources.
All the time. Especially when I'm trying to do quick research on a new topic or something. And I'm like, oh, this sounds good. But I'm like, wait a minute. They haven't actually,
Right.
they're just trying to sound smart. There's no substance.
Exactly. And that's a great example of what the paper would call hard BS.
Okay.
There's a deliberate attempt to deceive to pass off fluff as fact.
Okay. So then what's soft BS?
So think of it like someone who passionately believes in a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Even though there's no real evidence to support it.
Right.
They're not necessarily trying to mislead you intentional. They genuinely believe what they're saying.
Right.
But that lack of concern for the factual accuracy is still a form of BS.
That makes sense. So ChatGPT in that scenario is like the conspiracy theorist. It's not intentionally lying, but it's also not exactly a reliable source of truth either.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
And this distinction is really important when we're talking about AI, because it raises the question, can a machine even intend to deceive?
Right.
Can it understand the difference between truth and falsehood in the way that humans do?
That's a whole other philosophical can of worms.
Yeah, right. It really is.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complicated when you think about the real-world implications.
Oh, I bet.
The paper actually opens with a pretty shocking example of a liar who used ChatGPT to prepare for a case.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, it turns out ChatGPT cited several legal cases that sounded totally legitimate,
Okay.
except they didn't exist.
Oh, my God.
The AI had completely fabricated them.
Wow, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So even if ChatGPT isn't intentionally trying to mislead us, the consequences of its bullshit can be really serious.
Exactly. And that's why understanding these different shades of BS is so important, because it's not just about like catching AI in a lie, you know.
Right.
It's about recognizing that nature makes it prone to generating convincing sounding nonsense.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about ChatGPT making up legal cases.
Yeah,
Is that something that we should expect to see more of as, like,
I think so.
AI gets more and more integrated into our lives?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. And that's why this paper is so important.
Yeah.
It's not just about like pointing fingers at AI and calling it a liar.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that the way that it's built
Right.
makes it inherently susceptible to this kind of bullshit.
Right. So it's like the AI is a tool.
Yeah,
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
exactly. Yeah, and the paper actually compares it to plagiarism.
Okay.
So ChatGPT itself might not be intentionally trying to pass off false information,
Right.
but it makes it incredibly easy for humans to do so.
Right.
So think about
Oh, yeah.
students using it to write essays,
Oh, totally. Or like,
or even journalists using it to generate news articles.
yeah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Especially with how much information we consume online every day.
Yeah.
Like, how can you even tell what's real anymore?
Right, and that's where that critical thinking comes in.
Yeah.
We can't just blindly trust anything an AI generates, no matter how smart it seems.
Right.
We need to be asking questions, we need to be checking sources,
Right.
and remembering that just because something sounds convincing
Right.
doesn't mean that it's true.
So it's not about swearing off AI altogether.
Right.
It's just about
Just about upping our game.
right.
Upping our...
Being more discerning consumers of information.
Precisely.
Right.
Think of it as like a necessary skill upgrade
Yeah.
for the digital age.
Totally.
We all need to level up our BS detectors,
Right. I love it.
whether we're dealing with AI or just other humans.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. So next time you see something amazing online, maybe don't take it at face value.
Right.
Do a little digging. And remember, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. What a great deep dive.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. To our listeners, if you're as fascinated by this as we are, be sure to check out the full paper. We've just scratched the surface here. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and thanks for taking the deep dive with us.